second main topic, which is just going to be an analysis and breakdown of the Manchester United match against Aston Villa at the weekend. Casey Stoney's Red Army, as I like to call it, emerged victorious by a scoreline of 3 to Aston Villa's nil. Who all played in this match? Who was in the squad? Mary Earps started in goal, and then in defense we had Martha Harris, who actually returned from a pretty lengthy injury. She was out for a few weeks. Playing alongside her in defense was Amy Turner, Millie Turner, and Anna Batche. And then in the midfield, we featured quite a few players today. Katie Zellum, Jackie Gronin, Lucy Staniforth, Ella Toon, and Kirsty Hansen. And then the striking position in the number 9, we had Jess Sigsworth. Coming on into the squad as subs were Ivana Fuso, Fran Bentley, Tara Bourne, Maria Thoris-Dottir, Carrie Jones, Haley Ladd, and Jane Ross. So really solid squad that I really like today. A few things to note that they were missing a lot of players today. Kristen Press picked up a small knock in training, so she was kept out of today's match as a precaution, and it turned out just fine, so no worries there. Tobin Heath is obviously still injured and will probably be out for at least another month. Lauren James and Leah Golden also did not feature today because of injury-related things, but like I said, however, it was no problem for Man United. They absolutely dominated this game, so much so that they scored 3 goals, and they retained possession for nearly 75% of the game. That's absolutely insane. And to boot, they had given up no corners to Aston Villa. Aston Villa had no corners all game long, and also Aston Villa had no shots on goal. So that's pretty much how the game went. It's really strange to see a team dominate a game so well, but not win it by 6-7 like you'd see Chelsea or Man City do. So I think that's a really fascinating characteristic of Casey Stoney's side that myself as a fan I like to appreciate. What were some of the best spots in the squad for today's game? So we'll go down the line. There's quite a few bright spots. First, Ella Toon. Ella Toon would have been my woman of the match if she wasn't taken off in the 60th minute. When the squad had a really, really slow start today, I would argue they probably didn't get it going until about the 30th minute. She was creating as many chances as she could. I believe she had like 3 or 4, and she even had a shot on goal. So she was doing everything she could. Her creativity was really being exercised throughout the midfield and also in the final third. So I thought Ella Toon played fantastic today. And like I said, if she would have played the whole game, she would have been my woman of the match. But there's more matches coming up that they have to make up, so I get it. Casey Stoney wants to rotate the squad. And at that point in the game, they're pretty much dominating already, so why risk it? Moving into the next bright spot, which is Kirsty Hansen. Kirsty Hansen ended up being my woman of the match. I thought she played fantastic today. She can get up the wing like nobody's business. It's amazing to see her be such a force, not only on the ball, like through her dribbling skills, gliding through defenders, but a lot of times defenders will have bone-crunching tackles on her inside the penalty area or just going up the wing, and it doesn't phase her. She just finds her way through it. I don't know how. It's amazing to see, but she that's one of my favorite qualities of hers. She was the catalyst for the team today. She made Aston Villa pay for a mistake. They gave away the ball to her in the midfield early on in the game. I believe it was the 27th minute she ended up scoring. But she took a shot and it hit off the crossbar and it went in. And good teams make other teams pay for their mistakes, and she did exactly that. And that's what I think really kicked off their play for the rest of the game and really set the tempo for things to come. So for me, Kirsty Hansen was my one of the match. I thought she played absolutely phenomenal. Moving next, Lucy Staniforth. I thought Lucy Staniforth had some really good set pieces today. She took quite a few of them, especially earlier on in the first half. And she ended up getting assist off of one of them to Jess Sigsworth. So I thought she played pretty well today, especially with all the injuries that the squads had in their midfield and forward line. So good on Lucy Staniforth for that. And plus, too, we haven't seen a ton of her this season, so it was really good to see her get in some minutes and perform really well in those minutes, too. Moving in next is Millie Turner, who I'm convinced is the anchor to this back line for Manchester United and also one of the best central defenders in the league as of right now. She continued to shine today and show her poise, composure on the ball, especially since United had so much of it. So her and Amy Turner ended up facilitating a lot of play today. She did excellent at that, and when she needed to defend, she made no mistakes, obviously, because Aston Villa didn't have any shots on target. So she played really, really well today, and it was really great to see her continue to perform as consistently as she usually does. Moving into my last big bright spot for the game, Katie Zellum. Overall, Katie was pretty quiet today. She was the skipper for the squad again. She does a great job in that role. She was pretty quiet, but despite her being quiet, she still ended up to score a goal for her side and increase the goal differential when, at this point in the season, every goal matters because they're neck and neck with Arsenal. And Arsenal, as we know, have a really, really high goal difference. So she made it count and she put in another positive aspect to the team. So I really admired that about her play today. Moving past some of the really bright spots, which, like I said, with how much they dominated the game, there were a ton of them. What were some not so bright spots? There's almost none. Only two things come to mind. As I alluded to earlier, United had a really, really slow start. They really didn't get going until about the 30th minute after Kirsty Hansen had scored her really nice goal that I love to watch. For some reason, United, they do this thing where they'll have really, really quiet first halves. It seems to be pretty characteristic of them to not really start performing well until the first half is almost over, so like the 40th minute plus, or until the second half. I don't know if it's just they need to get into a rhythm and feel out the game before Casey starts making tactical changes, before they just get warmed up. It's really strange because it's like, obviously you want your team to be on all game long. And when you play against really, really good teams like City and Chelsea who tend to stay on it all game long, that can be really, really difficult. It makes me wonder even more about the Arsenal match because Arsenal have shown to get going a little bit later as of recent games as well. So it's going to be interesting to see two teams who are performing similarly and similarly well square off against each other and see how that goes. So I thought they took a little while to get going and really get in their rhythm, but once they did, they hit their stride and did really, really well. The other not so bright spot, and this really isn't a not so bright spot, this is just something I've been kind of noticing as time has gone on. I've noticed Amy Turner's been a little shaky in the back line. I believe she was shaky against Chelsea when Fran Kirby scored her goal and they took the lead. And then this game too, it's like she's not the most composed player on the ball. Like whenever her and Millie Turner have to pass back to Mary Earps, it's usually a very, like whenever it's coming from Amy, it's very not sure. If that makes any sense, it's very inconsistent. Either a lot of times the back passes to Mary Earps are just a little soft, and then Mary Earps has to rush and just clear the ball, or they're just way off target, or it's just a giveaway. And it's really interesting because I think Amy Turner is a phenomenal player. It's just for this season, she's been doing that really consistently, where she hasn't been the most reliable option in the central defending position. So it made me it made me think of a video I made a little while ago where Abby Dahlkemper ended up getting signed by Man City. This was obviously a couple months ago now, but somebody commented on the video, for Man City, it's not a bad signing. Obviously, if you sign Abby Dahlkemper, it only bolsters your squad, but it didn't make as much sense for Man City as it would have if Manchester United had signed Abby Dahlkemper. And the more I've watched the season progress, the more I've thought about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like I think if United would have signed Abby Dahlkemper, she would have been a huge X factor in the squad. She would have been a really, really big difference maker. And it makes me wonder why United didn't sign her, at least to a 1-year deal, like, or at least even a half-season deal, like what they did with Tobin Heath and Kristen Press. The thing is, it's like, okay, United aren't really too deep in the center defending spot. They've got Millie Turner, they've got Amy Turner, but neither one of them are necessarily world class. I'd say Millie Turner's probably world class, but not necessarily Amy Turner. And it would be really perfect to have Millie Turner have this nice compliment alongside her and Abby Dahlkemper, who can not only have really great distribution, which is something that Amy Turner tends to lack in, but also can defend really, really well, which who doesn't love an additional world-class defender in your back line? So it just makes you wonder. It really does. And the thing is, another big plus with United signing Abby Dahlkemper, if they did sign her, I wish they would have, would be that it's more incentive for Tobin Heath and Kristen Press to also resign for a couple more seasons after this one, because they've got their international teammate with them and it promotes more chemistry and it just makes everybody much, much happier. In that situation, for Abby Dahlkemper, she couldn't go wrong whether she signed with City, United, Chelsea. She probably would have found one of her U.S. teammates on any one of those squads. But for United, I think she would have made a much, much bigger impact with them than she would have with City. But then again, time will tell, because if City didn't have Abby Dahlkemper, I think I'd still be pretty confident that they'd win out and win the title for the rest of the season. But if Manchester United would have picked up Abby Dahlkemper, I would say there's no doubt in my mind that they'd make Champions League by the end of the season and challenge for the title next year too. So it really makes you wonder overall why United didn't pursue her. Maybe they just have other plans. Maybe they already know Tobin and Kristen are going to be leaving next season. But even then, why wouldn't you sign another world-class defender to bolster your back line? So, guys, overall, it was a fantastic game for United for Casey Stoney's side, especially coming out of the international break. They played very well. They had 3 goals. They had kept a clean sheet. They took 75% of the possession nearly. They didn't give up any corners, and they gave up no shots on goal. So it's about as dominant as you can get. But what did you think of the match? Feel free to jump down in the comments below and let me know what you thought.